There's often been an old saying regarding the English media that they will build you up only to then tear you down when things aren't going so well. And as far as the sporting arena is concerned, we've seen this happen to countless English teams across sport, whether it be cricket, football, or even some of the more favorite sports like rugby and tennis. Now, the latest team to have actually become a victim of that same cycle or that same vicious cycle that is perpetuated by the English media is the Bazball era England side. Now, to be fair, in this case, you can understand a lot of the criticism that will come their way, given that this was seen as a golden opportunity for them to actually make some sort of an impression in India. And despite the fact that they were 1-0 up after the first test, capitulated to the degree that they lost 4 straight tests thereafter, which means the series reads 4-1 in favor of India. So what were some of the interesting reactions that came from the British media? As I said, they can often be very, very harsh when things aren't going wrong, just as they'll be very, very bountiful with their praise when things are going well. Well, given that the manner of the capitulation shocked all and sundry, it's no surprise that the knives very much are out, whether that be from former players turned cricket experts to even ordinary journalists in some of the more reputed media houses in the UK. We'll quickly take a look at some of those reactions, and it will give you the general mood as to what it is that the public or the cricket loving public in England feel about this team. And let's just give you a spoiler, it isn't a very good picture. Let's start off with Michael Vaughan, who took to Twitter to say this. He said that India is so strong at home, and with so many players missing, they have showcased the strength they have. England haven't been able to get the tempo right with the bat in hand, beaten convincingly by a better team. That last line is golden. Beaten convincingly by a better team. And incidentally, this wasn't the only criticism that this English side copped from Michael Vaughan, who incidentally is also a columnist in the Daily Telegraph. And in his column, he put in a few withering criticisms of them. The most interesting one, which reads a little something like this, where he says that the greatest frustration is that they have the talent to be competitive all over, but they have blown 2 big series, and in this case, it is because their batting failed miserably. Now, in case you're wondering which of those 2 series it is that Vaughan is referring to, is of course referring not only to the India series, but also the Ashes, which they may have come back, yes, to draw 2-2, but the fact of the matter was many felt they shouldn't have been in a position where they were 2-0 down after 2 tests in the first place. So as Vaughan rightly puts it, he says in this case, the India case, it was simply down to their batting failing miserably. And it's hard to disagree really, because again, if you looked at what was it that gave England the best chance of potentially doing well in the series, was always going to be their batters batting out of their skin. The bowling, yes, did have quality, but the spin bowling lineup, minus a Jack Leach, lacked experience and lacked guile, and therefore expectations were always going to be low. The bowlers, by and large, did well. The batters, less said, the better. In fact, this kind of criticism was carried on by even a Nasser Hussain, who lambasted the term Bazball and said that England need to simply focus on correcting what it is that they can fix. In fact, this is exactly what he said. He said there's too much said and written about Bazball. Look at your own game and improve. That's how you get better as players and better as a team. In fact, Nasser would go on to further cite the examples of the likes of Ravichandran Ashwin, where he says that, Ashwin, someone who's gotten so many test wickets but is constantly looking for new tricks, looking to get better, trying to experiment. So someone like a Jimmy Anderson at 41 years old is realizing that he needs to improve his run-up a little bit so that he can get some more zip into his balls. So he said that these are the kind of things that you need to be doing. Look at your own game, see where it is you can improve. Then and only then you'll have success. You can't just be belatedly going on about, oh, this is how we play, and positive attitude and vibes. His words were, you look at where it is that you can improve, work on that. That's how you're going to get better as a team. In his eyes, England clearly failed to do just that through the course of this series. Incidentally, one person who was key to England last winning a series in India, Alastair Cook, had a rather different take as to why it is that England's batters struggle so much. He too pinned it largely down to the batting, but his reasoning was simple. He said that England aren't good enough defensively against spin, so there's only one option, which is to be aggressive. And it's too hard against top quality bowling. Now, this part I think bears a lot of repeating, because a lot of Bazball's success came against the so-called lesser teams. If you're looking at the elite nations of Test cricket, then it's safe to say that that would be Australia, India, and England, and not necessarily in that order. But of all of the success that Bazball enjoyed, it came against the lesser teams. It came against New Zealand, Pakistan, South Africa. Against Australia, they ended up drawing the Ashes. Against India, they were comprehensively beaten. So, is this really a winning formula? Well, opinions seem to be not very divided in that regard. And in fact, if you're looking at how it is that the English media are reacting, the knives are very much out for Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, especially if you go by what it is that was printed in the Times newspaper. The Times were very, very critical of the fact that this English team don't seem to try out too many new players. In fact, this is what they said. The write-up says very clearly that even though the series was settled, Stokes and McCullum opted against a game to Dan Lawrence or Gus Atkinson in Dharamshala. Their mateship knows no bounds. Ouch! That is a stinging rebuke to a team, let's say, that has tried to foster a sense of togetherness, but which, when you look at it, hasn't given that many new opportunities to a lot of young players. Yes, in this series, you had a Hartley, you had a Bashir, but they were there more down to necessity than they were anything else, because again, both of them were educated punts as far as their spin bowling and all-round abilities were concerned, because neither of them had played a ton of first-class cricket. In fact, as the Times rightly points out, you didn't see any much experimentation. Dan Lawrence didn't get a look in. Gus Atkinson didn't get a look in, despite the fact that the series was done and dusted. You could have tried out a few new players. And they also add that Alex Lees has really been the only player that's been dropped in recent times. It's one thing, let's say, ensuring that you have a core talent pool to build from, but sometimes trying out new players might not necessarily be the worst thing in the world. Look at India and how many new players they tried out in this series, and barring a Rajat Patidar, it's safe to say that everyone made an impact. Sometimes getting in young players is good to freshen things up. But perhaps the most withering criticism came via the BBC, and in fact, this is one of the best lines which I thought encapsulated the entire failure, because the write-up said that Bazball is not a one-size-fits-all approach. The recent results speak for themselves. It is not a winning formula. It seems there is a lack of responsibility and a lack of accountability. And one point that really hit home in this, which the BBC report further says, that it tends to sometimes ignore winning. But winning is paramount. Winning is the only thing that matters when it comes to elite level sport. And the simple fact of the matter is that against the big nations, against the teams against whom it really counts, Bazball has in effect failed. Not a winning formula seems to be the right way to go about. Of course, if you go by what it is that Ben Stokes said after the match, saying that no, we want to keep improving where it is that we lack, and we want to become better players. Them becoming better players might start with them trying to play a little bit more situational cricket instead of one-dimensional, going gung-ho, attacking at all times kind of cricket. That's the route to success in Test cricket. You mix caution with aggression. It's not just aggression, and aggression. This isn't white ball cricket. That may be the best way, and it seems like the English media has cottoned onto that, and therefore the knives very much are out. Is this the end of Bazball? Is it going to come back in a new fashion? That's something we don't know for sure. For me, I think it's something that will have to be evolved. Otherwise, it risks going the way of the dinosaur and having a much shorter run, incidentally, than that animal. But you can let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTech app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've posted as well. For now, from my side, it is goodbye.